Okay, so before I want to talk about PTSD, being in the Army 11 years, I'm going to say this. If any military person who tells you that they don't have PTSD, give them some ice cream and tell them it's okay. Every every single military personnel, I don't care where you serve. You can serve in the Space Force, the new Space Force. If you serve longer than a year, heck, if you even been to boot camp, you got PTSD. Now, there's certain levels of PTSD that's manageable. Like for me, I've been to Iraq, I've been to South Korea. Um, I, I, I yeah, I have. I get angry. Well, I used to get angry when I was definitely in the service, but um, PTSD. I mean, there's certain levels of it. I mean, I'm not diagnosed with it, but I know there's certain triggers that being in military service, especially being in Iraq with special forces. I mean, there's certain things that I could say was, horrific. Um, but I know my composure. I know what I got to do. But I'm one of the lucky ones. But some people, the ones that did come back, the ones that do have extreme PTSD, like my brother, he been in 25 years. He served 8 years in the Marines. He served the rest of these years, um, 15 years in the Army. He got out of the Marines and went back in the Army. We actually served in Iraq together, and we didn't even know we was in Iraq at the same time. He was in Fallujah, I was in Baghdad, and we had no idea we were we were in separate units, but in country. Right, it was like about a couple hours away. We didn't even know that. Um, yes, PTSD. But it's manageable. I mean, he has a family, great family. He has a great job. Came out of college like me. And then there's some veterans who cannot be managed, and some veterans die from it, suicide and everything. But I'm saying this topic to say that PTSD is no joke. That constant bombardment of, especially in the service, you got explosions going off, you got all kinds of things that are happening, and it gets to you. You take it back with you. So that's when I say when you meet a veteran, it's like, oh, they're on PTSD and I'm okay. No, there's something there, but some of us handle it way better than others, way better. But why am I saying all of this? What does this have to do with racism? Well, when you're dealing with racism, people who experience racism constantly is actually suffering through a form of PTSD. From the time you get up, time you have your breakfast, and the time you go out to the world, and from the time you come back, and the time you decompress, and the time you have dinner, and the time you go to sleep, you're suffering from PTSD. If you're a so-called minority, which I don't like using that word at all, but this is the only way I can communicate effectively. African descendants of slaves, African American, Black person, Latino person. You have Native Americans who all experience some form of racism, and that causes PTSD. And people say, well, scientists now have admitted, scholars now admitted, yes, that people of color have experienced severe form of PTSD because of the constant racism they've been bombarded with all their life. Your environment, meaning where you live, your location, is a form of PTSD. If you're surrounded in the hood and there's no opportunities awarded to you, that's end result could be PTSD. The food you eat, nutrition. You've been bombarded with, you can't have a good income, so you can't buy the food that you need to sustain you or feed your family, which causes cause PTSD. Your job. Try to get a job I won't say the government, but you try to get a good job and you can't because of some label that they put you in, something they put you in that cannot give you the good job to have that good economic status, to buy the food, to live in a good place with your family or yourself. That is a form of PTSD. It was like 4 or 5, five now. The people who you surround yourself with, right? There's a form of PTSD. If there's no positive person, I learned this when I first started getting my mentors many years ago, that I got my first mentor. I was in Iraq. It was Colonel Campbell. He was my mentor. He taught me how to be successful in Iraq, in Baghdad. Those who don't have mentors, who have the people that surround them, you know, the influencers, they could be a form of PTSD. We go on to 6. The stuff that you take in the media, constantly bombarded. The people you look up to, the people you listen to, the superstars, the sports players, the actors, the news, the music, that could, how it stresses you out. That could be a form of PTSD. And you know, for a long time, I listened to rap. I grew up in rap. I grew up in hip hop. I had no idea that was tailored in a negative light. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, yes, the cursing and all that. Yeah, I knew what it was, but I had no idea music could also be a form, if not utilized correctly, if utilized incorrectly, could be a form of PTSD, right? They did a study many years ago. I think it was like, it's almost 10 years now. So I think it was somewhere in Asia where they blast rock and death metal to a plant, and the plant withered over time. And then they played nice, soft, uplifting jazz and music to another plant, and it flourished. I had no idea. What else? That's was it 7, 8? I mean, the list could go on and on and on and on and on. People of color experience some form of who experience some form of racism. It doesn't matter how subtle it is a form of PTSD, the repercussions of that. And so when you have someone who's trying to function correctly and they say, well, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And it's not them. It is the environment that they surround themselves in forms that negative environment of racism, and they form PTSD is a form of PTSD, and people wonder what's wrong with them. How come they don't understand? How come they can't adjust? Yeah. I say all this to say, because I want to show you something real quick. Actually, there's 2 things I want to show you, but I want to show you one important thing. Take a look at this video that went around. It had like over 21 million views of this guy. It's interesting because here's a guy, you probably know which video I'm talking about, but here's a guy who stormed the White House and he couldn't get on a flight. Now, you've probably seen this. So about mine, I apologize for the foul language. I do, but let me play this for you real quick. Now, this guy apparently stormed the Capitol. This is by Ray Redacted. So he stormed the Capitol and then he tried to get on a flight and they banned him from the flight. So check this out. Let's see if I could, can I extend it? Can I extend it? Oh, I can. Okay, check this out. I love every single one of you, but this is what you do to us. You called me a fucking terrorist and you want to fucking ruin my life. I love every single one of you, but this is what you do to us. You called me a fucking terrorist and you want to fucking ruin my life. So, this guy, I I don't even know his name, but this guy was removed from, well, I won't say he was removed, but he went to the Capitol, he protests, and now Delta Air, I guess Delta, they said, hey, you can't get on the flight. You know, you stormed the Capitol, we're not going to let you on. And this guy, you hear him in the background saying, this is what they do to us, this is what they do, they call us terrorists, yada, yada, yada. Has over 21 million views. It's interesting. Out of all the videos I saw, especially with people who can't get on flights, I saw 2 weeks ago with the incident at Washington, D.C., this one, of course, stuck out to most because it's especially for colored people, because this is what we all been screaming about before I was born, before my father was born, before my great-great-grandfather was born, about the racism in America and pretty much around the world. This is what most Native Americans been screaming about for many, many years in the time America was created, of the stuff they can't do because of racism. So what's the irony here? The irony here is this guy suffering from PTSD? I mean, we could say he is. I mean, he went on the Capitol and he's freaking out. He's running around the airport. He's like, oh my gosh, this happened to me. Oh gosh, I can't get home. I can't get on a plane. I'm being discriminated against. Oh my gosh, they're calling me a terrorist. This is probably the first time in his life he's ever been kicked off a plane. It's probably his first time. And now he got a taste of what we all been going through all our life. And look how he's freaking out. So let me go back to this video. I'm gonna play it to you again. The discussion we had last week, Wednesday. Again, we're having another one coming up this Wednesday, or Inauguration Day at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a virtual ERF and Racism Forever virtual open discussion. I invite you to come out. You don't have to pay for anything. Just click on the link, go to the website, register. But here, let me play this again.
So I'm saying all that to say that I've had discussions with some of my friends who just happen to be Caucasian. And there's something that's been going on in this country for years and years and years, and it bugs the heck out of me, is that when, and this is my own personal experience, when I explain to you about something that has happened to me and I know it's racial, you push it to the side and say, oh, you know, you're too sensitive, or oh no, that kind of stuff can't be happening now, or, you know, acting as though it didn't happen. So that has been just really bothersome for me, because it's almost like, you know, like they'll say something like, oh, you're just overly sensitive, or, you know, well, you know, they didn't really mean it like that. But I'm the one who experienced it, and I'm the one who has the experience of it and have had for so many years. It's so exhausting.
But people trying, just, I mean, to me, it's disheartening. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to cry the way people want to just put their hands over their eyes and not see and not feel and not understand. But, you know, we were in slavery for 400 years, and no one wants to face that horrific crime against Black people. They don't want to face that. If they face this, if they say that this is not going on and this is not real, then they have to face the fact that slavery was real and they murdered us and they killed us and they did all the things that they did, you know, and no one wants to face that. And so this is how America works, though. This is how they operate. This is how we operate. We just act like it doesn't exist.
And racismforever.org.